Hey gang, today we are going to talk about how to turn $100,000 into 50 million through business acquisitions, okay? Listen, this is an advanced acquisition strategy. It's more closer to capital allocation and deal making than it is really entrepreneurship and sort of, building that company for you to own, or that portfolio for you to own. It's a little bit different. And I've always hesitated to talk about this on the internet because I think that there's a certain amount there's a certain type of person that is ready to actually execute on this. And I think that it really requires that you have the sort of right background and resume to sort of pull this together, right? However, for those that, are in a position to do it, they likely don't know about this strategy. And for those that, maybe aren't quite to this level, I want you to at least understand what's possible. Okay, in terms of, moving towards business acquisitions rather than, starting from scratch, or maybe you did start from scratch and you have an entity and you just want to use, M&A to grow through acquisition and build to that $50 million valuation. My name is Walker Deibel. I am the Wall Street Journal bestselling author of Buy Then Build, creator of Acquisition Lab, the elite acquisition accelerator. So here's the thing, okay? The first thing we need to understand is how the capital stack works. So pretend that this is a business that we're going to go buy, okay? And the thing is this business, when we buy it, okay, it's going to be, X million dollars. And so the thing is when we don't write a check for X million dollars out of our bank account, right? You buy it in the same way that you buy, real estate. So just think about it. And for example, just to take it all the way down to the fundamentals, imagine this was your primary residence, your home. You're going to go buy this home, okay, or this condo or whatever. So you are going to put in, whatever it is, 20% cash infusion. All right, this is called equity, right? Equity in your house. And then up here, you've got some kind of, senior secured debt or loan, and that's, going to be like 80% of your house, okay? And then, this mortgage is like a 30-year mortgage, and, you pay it every month over time. Right? The big difference is that this is your primary residence and you need to go get a job somewhere else to come in and pay that mortgage off. One of the benefits of buying small businesses is that you can use bank loans to buy something with cash flow that will actually be generating the money to pay off the loan and pay you and provide capital to reinvest into the company if you do it right, okay? So, this is the overall concept of a capital stack: senior secured loan, equity, okay? Some of you might go out and get a second mortgage or something like that, and so maybe your first loan was 60%, this is a 20%, second mortgage or HELOC or something like that, okay? So here's the thing. When you buy an existing business, what I talk a lot about in Buy Then Build is just this concept of going out and buying small businesses using SBA loans, because for all kinds of reasons I won't go into in this video. But the point is that might be as high as 90% and 10% equity. Okay, so if you're buying, say, $1 million business, you might be putting in $100,000, between 100 and 200,000, depending on all kinds of things. And so you're able to get a lot of cash in order to buy these cash flowing assets, right? So buying, small businesses and buying a primary residence kind of works the same way in terms of the fact that you have this sort of capital stack. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and target, okay, companies with. So for this acquisition strategy, we're going to target companies with, let's just say, between 1 and 3 million, okay, in earnings. Okay. And we're going to start on the low end. We're looking for that $1 million in earnings business. And I've got all kinds of videos on the different ways to tell earnings, but let's just roll with me. Now, we are going to be buying these companies for a multiple of the amount of cash flow it produces. Okay? And so let's just say that we're going to go to our first business and we're going to say, hey, I'm going to offer you a four times, which might be kind of a floor. And they might say like, well, it's really going to be a 4.5 times because of, whatever, networking, capital, inventory, whatever it is. And we work it out and we get this deal for $4.5 million. You might have to put down 450,000, okay, down here and get the balance, whatever that is, 4.05 million from a SBA loan, which you can do. Okay, so that might be one way to do it. Now you can raise for a lot of this equity, okay? But actually, let's talk about that for a second. You can raise for a lot of this equity. The single best way if you're doing one is to go get investors, okay? However, often the seller is the person who has sort of a target on them, and the SBA has even encouraged this recently. And so you might be able to get a seller note, okay, for a certain percentage. Let's just say, or let's just say an additional, 10%, okay? Sorry, it's a little funky, but okay, so we've got an additional 10% of equity, in a seller's note, but the bank considers that equity because the seller is in second position. Remember when we had that second mortgage that's in second position? The capital stack is when things go south, who gets paid, right? So if this whole thing goes south and you bought it for $4.5 million and you're able to sell it for, let's just say, $2 million, okay? The $2 million does not get distributed equally across all these parties. The senior secured note loan is the one that gets paid, in this case, in full, because the balance exceeds this, and they are not happy with you as the operator for messing this up. Okay, but the point is that you can actually use these seller notes as a source for what the bank will consider equity, which will then reduce the amount that you need to put in, okay? Footnote, if you go to market with this plan of I can't actually get the deal done unless I can get a seller to agree to this, you are getting ready to walk an uphill battle, okay? Because if you find a business that is especially if it's your first time, trust me, I've worked with a lot of first-time buyers. They're very picky. They're very concerned about risk. They want everything to be sort of perfect and in order. And when you find businesses even approaching that, they're in high demand at market, okay? And a lot of times this, seller financing just gets bid out, right? And even though someone's using a bunch of debt to buy the business, it appears to the seller like it's just cash at closing. And that's what they want, right? They're not gonna have any more control on this business. And so they are going to go to somebody who, is able to just write them a check cash at close and they can move on with their life, okay? So how do you solve for this? And here's sort of the creative financing way that you can do it. So, number one, go to sellers that are not at market, okay? I'm a big proponent of brokers because those sellers are ready to go, okay? And this is a very time-consuming approach, but hear me out. You're gonna go to sellers that are not at market. And you're going to be looking for that $1 to $3 million deals. Again, I want you to start it near the bottom. And what I want you to do is say, listen, seller, I want you to own 20%, okay, equity in this new entity that I'm starting. Okay, we'll call this, NewCo. In this NewCo, okay, I want you to own 20% of this new entity. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to do an asset sale. So your existing company, we're going to move it into NewCo, and you are going to own 20% of this new company. Okay. Then the second thing is I'm going to write you a check for 40%. Okay, of this. Wait, sorry, 60%. I shouldn't do math on camera. 60% of the entire enterprise value. So again, let's assume it's $4.5 million. I can't do that in my head, but it's it's $3 million or something. So I'm going to write you a check for $3 million. You are going to own 20% of this new company. And by the way, I want you to just keep doing what you're doing. Whatever fair market value salary is, that's what we're going to pay you. Okay. Then what I want to do is I'm going to pay you 20%. Okay, as a seller's note. Okay. Deferred over time. And maybe it's one of these where 5%, we split this in two, okay, and half of it, 10%, is a straight up seller's note, 10-year amortization, 5-year balloon, first year or two interest only if we can get it. Banks love that. And we'll make the whole strategy more successful in a minute. And the other 10% is maybe an earnout where based on performance over the next couple of years, as long as the business stays relative to where it is, performing, then you get that automatically. Like it's not a hard earn out. It's just protection from downside. Okay. So what did we just do here? What we just did was we created, if we can get the seller to agree to this, from the bank's perspective, we just created 40% equity in the deal. Okay. Now, what's the truth? The truth is, it's really only 20% equity, and it's the seller's. And how much of this money is yours? It's actually approaching zero, because this 60% is easily a loan that's achieved because you've got 40% equity in the deal. Okay? Well, Walker, why on earth would a seller agree to this, especially if they're not even at market? That's what's interesting. This is what I want you to say to them. And by the way, one more really important point here is that this 60% that is, on a loan from the bank, and this 20% that is a seller note, okay, this means that 80%, okay, of the entire enterprise value of this whole company is owned by you, the buyer, okay? And that's going to be NewCo, all right? Now, here's what we're going to do. When you stack earnings on top of each other, okay? So if you have $1 to $3 million business plus a $1 to $3 million business, I'm talking earnings now, plus $1 to $3 million business times 10, okay? Let's say it's $2 million on average, and now we go out and we buy 10 of them, just like this, okay? What happens is that you get what's called multiple expansion. So instead of buying this company at, maybe between 4 and 5 times, we're actually going to be able to take to market, hey, I've got like $20 million in EBITDA. Well, a $20 million company, okay, that might, depending on what's going on and all of the other components, I mean, that could sell for a 7.5 times, okay? Just to keep the numbers grounded, okay? There's all kinds of ways you can get it higher or lower, okay? But you're buying at a 4.5 and you're increasing the value of the company to 7.5. That's like off camera, sorry guys. But so I'm increasing the value just by combining all these together. Now, it's important to understand you can't just have 10 companies like separately, okay? You need to meld the culture. You need to meld the systems. You need to have put together a formal board, right? So the point is you go to 10 different people and say, listen, we're gonna do this with you. And we're also gonna do it with 9 other people, all right? The first one's gonna be the hardest. And NewCo, we combined are going to engineer, okay, this $20 million earnings business with the goal of going out and selling it for double your enterprise value today. Mr. Seller, what are the odds that you're going to be able to double the value of your business, okay, in this short amount of time without this kind of strategy, right? And they'll know, like, hey, listen, I've been doing, whatever, HVAC for 30 years, and, this is just sort of the size of the company, right? So you start to centralize all the marketing, okay? You centralize all the accounting, you centralize maybe not operations at the local level, but like a lot of governance and administration, all the rest of it, HR and all the rest at sort of HQ, okay, at NewCo. And so NewCo becomes 80% owner of this entity, and then it becomes 80% owner of the next 9, okay? So you've got 10 companies, 20 million. Now each one of those firms is going to send a management fee back to home base, okay? Keep it low and reasonable, and that fee goes to cover all the overhead, okay? So it's more like a private equity sort of, roll-up kind of structure. And so you're able to use this attractiveness by saying, listen, seller, that 20% that you're keeping, first of all, I want you to get all of this seller note. I really do, okay? I'm not trying to make it hard for you to get it. But this 20%, okay, my goal for you is to make that 20% as valuable as this 80% that we're giving to you today. Okay, and the point is we're going to put this on like a 3 to 5 year plan. You're going to be able to retire or whatever, and all the rest of it. Okay, and of course there's other things that we can lay into here, like if the seller wants out, maybe you sell off 10% to the management team, and this kind of method where you start to bring in the new management of each entity simply by getting them to write checks into the company rather than just giving them free vested stuff. But maybe you give them a discount or whatever. That's up to your management style. I like to be fair and equitable. You might choose to take advantage of them and charge them full enterprise value, whatever. So that's how, okay, why Walker, why 100,000? I didn't put any money into this. Well, look, if you have like zero skin in the game, like no one wants to play with you ever, okay? You're like the kid on the school playground that eats everyone's candy, okay? So the bank definitely wants to see that you have money in. You're gonna have to pay to find the company. You're gonna have to pay for the lunch with the owner. You're gonna have to pay for the due diligence. You're gonna have to pay for the quality of earnings, because you need to start building a tight ship around all these things going on. Once you buy the first one, okay, you simply negotiate that next 100,000 for the next business and so on and so forth. And then you roll this all up, and Newco sells to private equity for 7, 8, 9, maybe more times your $20 million in awesome earnings. Listen, if you're considering buying a business in the next, 1 to 24 months, consider Acquisition Lab. We have created a vetted community of buyers. And I mean it when I say that. In other words, 75% of applicants are actually not extended an invitation to enroll. We don't do this because we're elitist. We do this because buying businesses is hard, it's challenging, and you might not be ready. And we have other free resources for that. I've got 100 videos on YouTube. We've got an awesome newsletter. Check out buythenbuild.com, get on that newsletter. And we've got other, courses and free things. My book is, $17 hard copy or something. So anyway, the point is plenty of stuff for that. Vetted community, world-class education, tools, resources, modeling, all the rest of it. And of course, we've got 14 advisors on staff, private Slack channel, and all the rest of it. We closed about $200 million. Our members did. Just to be clear, I don't get a percentage of that. I get no referral fees, whatever. And so it's lifetime access with 14 buy-side advisors to help you succeed in buying a company. Thanks so much, and we'll see you on the inside.